Today's topic is going to be identity resolution. Now, let me just say something before we get started here. When you start talking about technology with some companies, they go off on tangents and they sound like they fell in love with their software and it's, not connected to any real result. Identity resolution is the absolute opposite of that. Okay? This is what's called outcome technology. Its sole purpose is to produce an outcome. And that outcome that we're going to produce for you is going to give you a level of insight that you can close and book revenue. Okay? Profitable revenue. All right? So as we're going through this, I might get a little giddy and excited. I love talking about the technology. We've been at it for the better part of 10 years, actually over 10 years at this point as of this recording. And, it's been a long process, the evolution from starting out with a match table to an identity graph and really getting into the machine learning aspect of this. And I want to leave you one other thought before we push here. I'm not a data scientist by any stretch of the imagination, okay? I'm a layman. I'm a marketer. And prior to being, a digital marketer, I was a salesman. And so everything that we've designed is so that we can get a good quality prospect on the phone and close, right? There's nothing tricky about this. So please bear in mind as we go through this, we might get a little passionate. I might get a little passionate. My staff might get a little passionate about the technology because we're proud of it. But at the end of the day, it's outcome technology. It has to produce that thing that you want, which is a high-quality closable pipeline lead. All right? So here's what you're up against. 83% of the B2B buying cycle is self-guided, meaning that prospect is doing all the work, going in 40,000 different directions. Everybody's different, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it. They're all navigating differently. They're all consuming content differently. They're all doing it from different channels on different devices, and you have to keep up, right? How do you do people-based marketing? How do you recognize who's doing what, when, and where? Okay? Here's something else you're up against. 68% of the buying cycle is completed before you ever speak to somebody. Okay? That means that the sale started long before you got on the phone. Okay? Every single solitary buyer's journey starts online. The more complex the sale, the earlier, the longer it starts online. Why? Because people follow a set path. Now, everybody's path might be different, but the set path process is they research the problem, they research the solution options, then they research who's going to solve that problem. Okay? And then they're going to engage. Then they're going to be sales ready. So now you have to deal with all of this. Now factor in that you've got a large marketplace and it's anonymous to you. You don't know who's on your website. You don't know who's researching, right? Who's searching what keywords, what content do they consuming. But you and I both know that there's a percentage of your prospects, okay, that are actively pursuing, actively researching, right? Not all prospects are equal. Not only are they not equal in terms of firmographics and job title, right? Company and job title, right? Smaller companies, bigger companies, different job titles are better than others. You also have to look at the behavior. So all of this is anonymous to you. All of that buyer journey, you're completely in the dark. What identity resolution does is it turns the lights on. It gives you the answers, right? The basic premise of our company is that every day there are closable sales leads visiting your website. Take that one step further. Every day there are closable sales leads starting the buyer's journey that you have no clue about. All right? Then factor in that you've got 5 incredible forces, right? Powerful suppliers like Google, right? Different ad channels. They dictate the terms. You're completely in the dark. You're at their mercy. Using managed service, same thing. You're at their mercy. Whether it's self-serve, managed service, right? Buyers. Your buyers are well educated. This is not 1970, not 1980, not 1990. Right? They can get answers to questions without ever speaking to anybody. That's why 68% of the sales cycle is done before you ever talk to them. So you're up against all of this. All right? Average buyer's journey. Now, one more thing that you're up against. Bella isn't the only person that has to make this decision. She's part of a team. So now you have to factor in that all of this that you compete against, all of this anonymity is now on an account-based level. That this decision isn't singular, but a group. So therefore, you need an account-based sales approach. Here's what identity does for you, and here's how it works. Okay? Identity is simply this, the use of an identity graph. Our identity graph allows us to take the person, right? All of their devices, all of their behavior, and connect it. Okay? So every day, we're bringing in real-time behavior on 150 million people, and we're connecting it to all their devices. And we're making sense of it all. So we're bringing in keyword search. We're tracking 150 million U.S. adults across billions of URLs. We're looking at all the content they're consuming, all the keyword search they're doing, their URL level navigation, their chronological URL level navigation, right? Their campaign response, all their competition analysis that they're doing, and even their physical. Okay? I won't get into the Internet of Things, but bottom line on the Internet of Things, when you hear that word, I know that sounds like jargon, but what we're talking about is sensors and networks. Right? Sensors collect information. They're connected to networks that feed it into a computer. Right now, we are about a 30 to 40 billion sensor economy on the way to a trillion sensor economy. So when you think of the word insight, data plus data equals insight. Knowing somebody's keyword search and knowing their name, each one of those are a piece of data. But the connecting of the two is insight, right? The right person doing the right thing at the right moment is insight for you. And what our graph does is it collects all that information on an identity level across all of their devices, and it brings in and fills in that 40 billion pieces of information. Now, behavior is not equal, just the same way companies are not equal, just the same way individual staff at a company are not all equal. Right? If you ask me, would I love to speak to a CRO or a salesperson? No disrespect to the salesperson, but if they don't control the budget and I need to speak to the person who controls the budget, I need to speak to the CRO. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean I don't want to get the salesperson, let's say, as an influencer. I need to be able to market across all levels of the company, right? And I want to be able to differentiate between companies. Which one's better, more ideal to our profile than the other? And so the same thing happens on the behavior level. That's where machine learning comes in. And again, another big jargon word. Most people don't understand how this concept works. It's not complicated. It's actually quite easy. Okay? So if you think about it like this, artificial intelligence, a subset of AI is machine learning. A subset of machine learning is deep learning. All we're talking about is connecting identity to behavior and making sense of it. Now, how do you do that? How do we know, right? I can collect all of this, right? I can know that somebody's in market, but how do I know? How do I know the specifics, right? How do I know when they are a serious potential prospect and somebody that I should ignore from a behavioral standpoint? All right? So let me just give you the basics of how we build a graph. Right? So Bella signs up for a paid content site, and she logs in. And every time she logs in, we connect her email, and we connect it to a cookie. Now, we're now in a cookieless world. I'm going to show you how we do this. But in reality, we're not in a cookieless world. We're navigating from a third-party cookie to a first-party cookie. Stay with me. I'm going to show you how we do this. All right? Bella logs in. We connect her on the post side of a transaction. That means that we're sure that we have a person. Bella's the one who gives us the email, right? And we connect it to our cookie. And that email address is now simultaneously connected to our cookie, which is simultaneously connected to first-party persistent identifiers. There are 5 that we use. I won't get into the companies, but you'd know every single one of their names. Okay? Every single solitary person on our graph, we're bringing in multiple times per month. We're bringing them in, and we're syncing our identifiers, whether it's the email, the device, the first-party data, our particular cookie. We're doing it over 5.2 billion times per month on these 150 million U.S. adults. Okay? We're constantly syncing and resyncing and requalifying and reconnecting. Okay? Our identity graph is built utilizing either vendors or publishers direct. Okay? There's nothing dubious about this. We pay for it. MONEY. That's how we're able to do this. Okay? So now that I have the identity, now that I have the device, now that I'm bringing in my behavior, every time we bring in the behavior, okay, we're looking at that behavior, that individual behavior, right? Whether it's keyword search, content, whatever it is, all right? And it's connected to the person. Now, how does a system learn whether or not that particular piece of information is indicative of a buyer? Okay? So, let's assume for an example here, Bella buys a car. Okay? The average sales cycle is longer than 60 days, but my slide is 60 days. Let's go with that. All right? Every behavior that she creates leading up to that purchase on June 1st, right? That chronological path to purchase, that buyer's journey, okay, is what's called the training sample. Now, let's say that Bella is heavily into rock climbing, okay? So the first behavior in her buyer's journey is rock climbing. And the next one is her going to Edmunds or going to Audi, right? Things that logically would make sense as a buyer, right? So how does the machine know whether or not rock climbing is valuable and Edmunds behavior or Audi.com behavior is? So every day we bring in the chronological path to purchase, and when you have a closed loop, right, we get the sales, we get the conversion, whether that's a form fill or even a click. The best is an offline sale. We look at that path leading up to that purchase. And when you compare that path to other buyers, you start to find common behavior. Okay? This is pattern recognition. It's called the regression algorithm. All an algorithm is mathematical optimization. We're just looking at the behavior, seeing what people have in common, and those behaviors become predictive. If, when we bring in the behavior, is that behavior of a previous Audi purchase? If it is, how many other previous buyers had it, right? It goes through pattern recognition. It's not complicated. It's actually quite simple. All right? Machine learning and deep learning, you know, it's just the level of info that you bring in, the level of data. So when you think about the 4 V's, right? Volume, velocity, variety, and veracity, right? So volume, we bring in 40 billion pieces of information, right? Variety, we bring in across billions of URLs in different types. Okay, velocity, it's coming in real time, every minute of every day, nonstop. We don't have gaps. And when you look at the pattern part of this, that's the veracity. Does that behavior, does that data meet a pattern? Okay? Not complicated. Honestly, if I can get it, you can get it. But don't worry yourself. Okay? Anybody who sits there and starts talking about machine learning, all we're looking for is this person in market, identify if they're early or late. That's all. Because you're going to market to them based on their behavior. You don't have to outthink yourself any more than this. If you're buying in market from us, all we're looking at is getting a better piece of insight. So if I compare 3 people as opposed to 300 or 3,000, there's that closed loop. Every time I can predict somebody's in market, I market to that person, I measure that prediction, and I rebuild my algorithm by making a new prediction, measuring that prediction, recalibrating that prediction, and around she goes. All right? So you can build a conversion behavior pattern. That's all we're looking to do on the in-market side. So when behavior comes in, we look at that individual behavior and go, 62% of previous buyers have this, 42%. And over time, the machine gets smarter. See, this is the part about machines that most people don't understand. Machines are dumb. They learn from the data. The data is the teacher. That chronological path to purchase, that's the training sample that educates the machine. Now, again, how does it know if rock climbing is worthless? Well, when Bella does it and it can't get compared to someone else, it's as equal as any other piece of behavior. But when compared to other buyers and hundreds of buyers and thousands of buyers, right, thousands of conversions, the machine goes, Bella's the only one. That behavior becomes worthless. It weighs the individual behavior. It weighs the recency. It weighs what percentage of your cumulative behavior matches the pattern. It's not any more complicated than that. It's a regression algorithm. All right? Now listen, if you're watching this video, I want you to focus on one thing first, your site visitors. Okay? Because if I can get you converting on your website visitors, your existing website visitors, there's 2 things that are very critical to you. Number 1, you don't have to do anything. You're already generating that traffic. You don't have to pay any more money. You don't have to lift another finger. And number 2, it's the beginning of a whole lot more. Okay? You can scale beyond just your website traffic. Who would you want to bring to your website next? You'd want to bring those prospects that are actively pursuing, that are in market. That's where our machine learning algorithm will start to find those prospects that are behaviorally in market for what you sell. And now you're going to get higher click-throughs when you run ads to them. And if you don't want to run ads to them, we'll do it for you, okay, under a managed service contract. And once you exhaust all your in-market, well, you have a much larger marketplace that haven't decided. What this all allows us to do is what's called people-based marketing. Programmatic advertising, I can upload a list of, let's say you sold to CEOs for argument's sake, or architects or engineers, or whatever it is you want to target, not just job title. You could target by the industry, the SIC code, whatever you want. Behaviorally is best, but if you wanted to do a firmographic approach, we could. And drive those people in market. Okay? So, there's a lot here. Don't worry yourself. Don't outthink yourself. Keep it simple. And if you want to learn more, when you get us on the phone, feel free to ask. And if you'd like to speak to me, my name's Tom Leantonio. Ask whoever you speak to at our company, hey, is there a way we can get Tom on the phone? The answer is abso-fucking-lutely. I'll talk to anybody. All right? And I'm not the greatest at this. I'm not the world's, foremost authority. I don't believe in that kind of crap. All right? We learn by doing. All right? So when we started doing this, it's because we didn't like all of the targeting capabilities. And we had built an ad platform, and we navigated into identity basically out of necessity. We didn't build the graph to sell access to a graph. We built the graph to use a graph. That's where I can help you and show you. All right? Have a great day.